A man's first breath of freedom after 20 years behind bars should taste like redemption. But for Marcus Thompson, that October morning in 2019 brought something else entirely. As the prison transport dropped him at his sister's suburban home, he noticed movement in the window next door. A woman watering plants, humming softly. The melody stopped his heart. That voice had haunted his nightmares for 2 decades. Rebecca Chen, the woman whose lies had stolen his life, was living 30 feet from where he would begin rebuilding it. Some coincidences are too cruel to be accidents. Some neighbors are more dangerous than prison cellmates. Chapter 1. The Perfect Accusation. Marcus Thompson embodied everything a community could want in an educator. At 32, he taught advanced mathematics at Jefferson High School in suburban Cincinnati, where parents requested him specifically and students actually enjoyed calculus. His classroom walls displayed thank you letters from graduates who credited him with their college success. The principal called him irreplaceable. Students called him the teacher who actually cared. Born to working-class parents who valued education above everything, Marcus had earned scholarships through high school and college. His father drove buses for the city transit system while his mother cleaned office buildings at night. They saved every possible dollar to supplement his scholarships, ensuring their son could focus on studies rather than survival. When Marcus graduated summa cum laude with his teaching degree, his parents wept in the auditorium. Their sacrifice had produced something beautiful. Marcus lived modestly in a 2-bedroom townhouse he shared with his younger sister Angela, who was finishing nursing school. He drove a 10-year-old Honda, coached the math team without additional compensation, and tutored struggling students for free on weekends. His idea of splurging meant buying name-brand cereal or taking Angela to a movie on Friday nights. The school district had just nominated him for Teacher of the Year when Rebecca Chen entered his life. Rebecca arrived as the new guidance counselor in September 1998, bringing impressive credentials from Northwestern University. 28 years old with sharp features and calculated charm, she commanded attention in every faculty meeting. While other staff members socialized in the break room, Rebecca observed and took notes. She studied people like mathematical equations, searching for variables she could manipulate. The accusation came suddenly on a Thursday afternoon in November. Rebecca claimed Marcus had made inappropriate advances during a meeting about troubled students. She presented emails he had never written, diary entries describing encounters that never occurred, and recorded conversations edited beyond recognition. The school board suspended Marcus immediately. Criminal investigators arrived at his classroom while students watched their beloved teacher being escorted away in handcuffs. The perfect accusation required no truth, only perfect presentation. Rebecca Chen had mastered both. Chapter 2. The Calculated Destruction. Rebecca Chen's performance in the courtroom rivaled professional theater. She arrived each day in conservative clothing, minimal makeup, and trembling hands that clutched tissues she rarely needed. The prosecutor, District Attorney Janet Mills, guided her through testimony so detailed that even fiction writers would admire its construction. Rebecca described meetings that existed only in her imagination, conversations Marcus never uttered, and advances that occurred solely in her carefully crafted narrative. The evidence appeared overwhelming. Email timestamps showed messages from Marcus's school account professing feelings he had never harbored. Rebecca produced a personal diary documenting months of escalating harassment, each entry written in shaking handwriting that suggested fear. She played recordings of Marcus's voice, edited and spliced from innocent conversations about curriculum planning, restructured into something sinister. Technology experts would later determine the sophistication of her forgeries, but Marcus's public defender lacked resources for such analysis in 1999. Rebecca's tears came precisely when needed. She would pause mid-sentence, overwhelmed by manufactured trauma, forcing the judge to call recesses. Jury members leaned forward sympathetically as she described feeling trapped and powerless against someone the community trusted. She painted Marcus as a predator who used his popularity to hide darkness beneath his charitable exterior. The prosecution's strategy proved brilliant in its simplicity. Janet Mills presented Marcus not as one bad teacher, but as a symptom of systemic failure. She questioned why the school board hadn't noticed warning signs, though none existed. She wondered aloud how many other victims might be suffering in silence. Rebecca suddenly remembered 3 former students who had mentioned feeling uncomfortable around Mr. Thompson, though these students were never called to testify and later denied making such claims. Marcus's defense crumbled like chalk in the rain. His public defender, an overworked attorney named Paul Harrison, juggled 17 other cases simultaneously. Character witnesses from the school testified to Marcus's impeccable reputation, but prosecutors dismissed them as colleagues protecting their own. Angela took the stand, describing her brother's dedication to education and family. But siblings always defend siblings, the prosecution argued. The turning point came when Rebecca revealed a final piece of evidence. She claimed to have found a hidden camera in the counseling office, though no such device was ever produced or entered into evidence. The mere suggestion horrified jurors. The prosecution painted a picture of systematic predation, careful planning, and calculated victimization of vulnerable students seeking guidance. Marcus watched his life disintegrate from the defendant's table. His parents sat behind him, aging years and days. Angela gripped their mother's hand, while their father stared at nothing, unable to comprehend how his son's American dream had become this nightmare. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. 20 years minimum sentence. Chapter 3. 20 Years of Silence. The Ohio State Penitentiary received Marcus Thompson on a cold December morning in 1999. The intake officers processed him like any other convicted predator, though something in his eyes suggested a different story. Prison hierarchy operates on unwritten rules, and those convicted of crimes against women occupy the lowest tier. Marcus learned this within hours when 3 inmates cornered him in the shower block. Only intervention from a guard prevented serious injury, though the message was delivered clearly. The first 5 years blurred into a routine of survival and desperate hope. Marcus filed appeal after appeal, each one meticulously researched in the prison library where he eventually found work. He taught himself legal terminology, studied case precedents, and wrote letters to innocence projects nationwide. Every rejection arrived with identical language about insufficient grounds and exhausted options. His public defender had long since moved to corporate law, leaving Marcus to navigate the system alone. Angela visited monthly, driving 4 hours each way despite her nursing schedule. She brought news from outside, photographs of a world evolving without him. Their father suffered a massive heart attack in 2003, dying before the ambulance arrived. Their mother followed 18 months later, with cancer that spread faster than hope could survive. Angela delivered both obituaries, sitting across from Marcus at a metal table while he learned he would miss both funerals. The prison denied his requests for compassionate leave, citing the nature of his conviction. Marcus discovered purpose in small victories. He organized a literacy program for younger inmates, teaching reading and mathematics to men who had never finished school. The prison library became his sanctuary, where he cataloged books and helped inmates research their own cases. Guards noted his quiet demeanor and lack of disciplinary infractions. Other prisoners gradually accepted him, though the label of his conviction never fully disappeared. Technology revolutionized the outside world, while Marcus remained frozen in 1999. Angela described smartphones, social media, and streaming services that seemed like science fiction. She married a pediatrician named James in 2008, sending wedding photos that Marcus studied until the images burned into memory. Their children arrived in 2010 and 2013. Nephew and niece Marcus knew only through photographs and brief video calls when the prison finally updated their communication systems. Year 15 brought acceptance. Marcus stopped filing appeals, ceased searching for new lawyers, and acknowledged that Rebecca Chen had won. Depression settled over him like winter fog, persistent and suffocating. Suicide seemed logical some nights, lying on his narrow bunk while counting reasons to continue breathing. He survived through routine and responsibility, knowing that younger inmates relied on his tutoring and that Angela still needed her brother, even behind bars. The final years transformed Marcus into something unexpected, a prison elder whom others sought for advice. He mediated disputes, taught conflict resolution, and became living proof that dignity could survive incarceration. Guards trusted him with additional library responsibilities. The warden approved his proposal for an advanced education program. October 2019 arrived suddenly, 20 years compressed into a moment when the discharge officer handed him his release papers. Chapter 4. The Impossible Neighbor. The October morning air felt alien against Marcus Thompson's skin after 2 decades of recycled prison atmosphere. Angela waited in her minivan, crying openly as her brother approached with a single canvas bag containing everything he owned. The drive from Ohio State Penitentiary to her suburban Cincinnati home passed in surreal silence, broken only by her occasional updates about neighborhood details and house rules for her children. Marcus stared at a world that had transformed beyond recognition. Strip malls where farms once stood, coffee shops with unpronounceable names, and everyone absorbed in glowing screens. Angela's house represented everything Marcus had missed. A 2-story colonial with a manicured lawn, children's bicycles in the driveway, and jack-o'-lanterns grinning from a porch. She had purchased it 3 months earlier, she explained, after the elderly owner offered an exceptional price due to urgent medical expenses. The neighborhood seemed perfect for Marcus's transition, quiet and anonymous, where nobody would research their neighbors' histories. Marcus stood in the driveway, absorbing the sensation of genuine freedom, when movement caught his peripheral vision. A woman next door watered potted chrysanthemums on her deck, humming a melody that froze his blood. The tune was unmistakable, the same nervous habit Rebecca Chen had displayed during faculty meetings, a classical piece she hummed when planning something. 20 years had added silver to her hair and lines to her face, but the posture remained identical. That calculated grace, the precise movements that suggested every gesture had been rehearsed. The woman turned slightly, revealing her profile, and Marcus's knees nearly buckled. Rebecca Chen stood 30 feet away, living the life she had stolen from him. She wore expensive activewear and a wedding ring that caught the morning sunlight. Through the sliding glass door behind her, Marcus glimpsed a modern kitchen where 2 teenage children ate breakfast. A golden retriever lounged at her feet. The nameplate beside her door read, "The Morrison Family." Angela noticed her brother's paralysis and followed his stare. She touched his arm gently, concerned by his pallor and trembling hands. Marcus couldn't form words to explain that his accuser, the architect of his destruction, had somehow materialized in the most impossible location. Angela had no method of knowing Rebecca's identity. The trial had occurred before social media, and Rebecca had apparently changed her surname through marriage or deliberate calculation. That evening, Marcus watched from his bedroom window as Rebecca hosted a dinner party. Guests arrived in luxury vehicles, bringing wine and laughter to the woman who had fabricated tears in a courtroom. She moved through her home with confident ease, playing the role of successful suburban mother. Her husband, a tall man with graying temples, kissed her cheek while refilling wine glasses. Her children, approximately 15 and 17, helped serve dessert with practiced hospitality. The impossible had become reality. Rebecca Chen hadn't simply escaped consequences, she had thrived. While Marcus rotted in prison, she had built an enviable existence on the foundation of her lies, living close enough that he could hear her laughter through open windows. Chapter 5. The Hidden Truth. Marcus Thompson's 20 years in prison had earned him an unusual currency: favors from men who understood debts of gratitude. Within 2 weeks of his release, he contacted Tommy Pearson, a former cellmate whose brother operated a private investigation firm in Columbus. Tommy's brother, Vincent, owed his life to Marcus after a prison education program helped overturn his own wrongful conviction. Vincent agreed to investigate Rebecca Chen Morrison without questioning Marcus's motives. The initial findings seemed routine. Rebecca Chen had married David Morrison in 2005, relocated twice for his corporate positions, and established herself as a successful real estate agent. She volunteered at her children's school, participated in charity fundraisers, and maintained a spotless social media presence. Everything appeared perfectly normal until Vincent discovered the gaps, periods where Rebecca Chen simply didn't exist in any database. Vincent's deeper investigation revealed a pattern that chilled Marcus's blood. Before becoming Rebecca Chen, she had been Rachel Clarence in Michigan, where university professor named Stuart Mills spent 12 years imprisoned for assault charges she had filed. Mills had died by suicide 3 years into his sentence. Before Michigan, she operated as Rita Coleman in Pennsylvania, where a high school principal named Joseph Torino lost his career and family to her accusations. Torino disappeared entirely after his acquittal, unable to rebuild his shattered reputation. The most damaging discovery came through financial records Vincent obtained through methods Marcus didn't question. Following Marcus's conviction, Jefferson High School's insurance company had paid Rebecca Chen a settlement of $500,000 for trauma and suffering. She had also received $70,000 from the school district's Victim Compensation Fund. The dates showed she purchased her first real estate license just weeks after the settlement cleared, using Marcus's destruction as seed money for her new life. Vincent uncovered correspondence between Rebecca and her mother through old email archives purchased from a data broker. The messages discussed the Cincinnati plan with disturbing casualness. Rebecca's mother had advised targeting someone with strong community ties, arguing that beloved figures generated larger settlements when they fell. She recommended patience, suggesting Rebecca establish herself before making accusations. The emails revealed calculated predation disguised as victimization. 3 other men emerged from Vincent's investigation, all accused between 1994 and 2015 across different states. Each had possessed a spotless reputation before encountering Rebecca under various names. 2 remained imprisoned. 1 had been released, but lived homeless in Detroit, unable to find employment with his record. The 4th had died in a suspicious car accident 2 weeks before his appeal hearing. Rebecca Chen Morrison wasn't simply a false accuser. She was a serial predator who had perfected the art of destroying innocent men for profit and apparently for pleasure. Marcus possessed evidence that could expose her pattern, but understood the bitter truth. Who would believe a convicted predator's claims against an established suburban mother? The system that had failed him once would likely fail him again. Chapter 6: The Final Reckoning. Marcus chose Halloween night for the confrontation, when Angela had taken her children trick-or-treating and David Morrison was traveling for business. He knocked on Rebecca's door at 8:30, after the last costumed children had departed. She answered wearing designer loungewear, wine glass in hand, her expression shifting from mild annoyance to absolute terror upon recognizing him. The glass shattered on her marble entryway. Rebecca attempted to close the door, but Marcus had anticipated this, placing his foot against the frame. He entered calmly, holding his phone with recording software already activated. She retreated to her living room, grabbing her cell phone, threatening to call police. Marcus simply sat in an armchair and waited. They both understood she wouldn't make that call. The facade crumbled within minutes. When Marcus presented Vincent's investigation findings, Rebecca's performance skills evaporated. She admitted everything with shocking casualness, as if discussing grocery shopping rather than destroyed lives. She expressed no remorse, calling Marcus pathetic for accepting his conviction so easily. She revealed knowledge of Angela's house purchase 3 months prior, had deliberately remained in the neighborhood, hoping to witness his broken return. Rebecca considered herself a collector of destroyed men, keeping newspaper clippings in a hidden scrapbook she retrieved to show Marcus. Pages filled with mugshots, trial coverage, and conviction announcements. Marcus's photo occupied prominent placement, annotated with the settlement amount she had received. She called it her retirement fund, built on masculine weakness and society's tendency to believe tears over truth. The recording captured her confession to 4 false accusations, her mother's involvement, and the systematic targeting of educators with strong community reputations. Rebecca threatened to accuse Marcus again, claiming nobody would believe a convicted predator's recording. She had perfected victimhood and would deploy it again if necessary. Marcus left the recording on Rebecca's doorstep the following morning, addressed to her 17-year-old daughter, Melissa. 24 hours later, paramedics discovered Rebecca unconscious in her garage, car engine running. Her laptop displayed a detailed confession letter, exposing every false accusation and naming each innocent man she had destroyed. Investigators initially suspected Marcus, but security footage confirmed he had been with Angela all night, helping distribute candy to late trick-or-treaters. The truth emerged through Melissa Morrison's tearful police statement. She had discovered Marcus's recording, confronted her mother, and watched Rebecca laugh about ruining innocent lives. Melissa had typed the confession herself, using her mother's laptop, then staged the garage scene after Rebecca consumed her nightly wine and sleeping pills. Rebecca survived, but faced multiple federal charges. 3 innocent men gained release from prison. Marcus Thompson finally received the vindication that 2 decades couldn't provide. Sometimes justice arrives through unexpected hands. Was Melissa Morrison a hero or criminal? Can 20 stolen years ever truly be repaid? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more stories where justice takes unconventional paths.